Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now before you click away, I need you to hear this because what I'm about to share could completely change your Australian migration timeline. The Department of Home Affairs just released the November 15th, 1899 invitation round results, and the points cutoffs are going to shock some of you. But here's what nobody else is talking about. New South Wales, the ACT, and the Northern Territory just announced their state nomination quotas. And for many of you watching right now, state sponsorship might actually be a faster pathway than waiting for that 189 invitation. So smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're serious about migrating to Australia, and let's dive into the most important immigration news you need to know right now. All right, let's get straight into the 189 invitation round from November 15th. The Skilled Independent 189 visa is the golden ticket that everyone wants because there's no state sponsorship requirement, which means complete freedom to live and work anywhere in Australia. But getting invited is becoming increasingly competitive, and this latest round proves exactly that the minimum point score for this round was 75 points. Now, I know some of you just got excited hearing that number, but hold on because there's a massive difference between the minimum baseline score and what you actually needed to receive an invitation, based on your specific occupation. The department issued approximately 1,000 invitations in this round, and when you consider tens of thousands of people are sitting in the expression of interest pool right now, you start to understand just how selective this process has become. Let me break down the occupation-specific requirements because this is absolutely critical information. Healthcare professionals, you're in a relatively strong position. Registered nurses received invitations at 75 to 76 points, which is right around that baseline minimum. If you're a nurse with 75 points who submitted your EOI several months ago, there's a good chance you received an invitation. But here's something crucial that many people don't understand. If two candidates have identical point scores, the person who submitted their expression of interest earlier gets invited first. This means timing matters enormously. If you're eligible right now, get that EOI submitted immediately because every day you wait is another day someone else gets ahead of you in the queue. For IT professionals, and I know thousands of you are watching this, the situation is much more challenging. Software and applications programmers needed a minimum of 80 points to receive invitations in this round. That's 5 full points above the baseline, and it reflects just how saturated the IT occupation category has become. Australia absolutely needs tech workers, there's no question about the demand, but the sheer volume of qualified applicants means the competition is absolutely fierce. If you're a software developer sitting on 76 or 77 points, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you're going to be waiting a very long time for a 189 invitation unless you can increase your score. Accountants, this next part is going to be tough to hear. The minimum points for accountants in this round was 85 points. Yes, you heard that correctly, 85 points. This is a direct result of the occupation ceiling placed on accounting professions. The reality is there are far too many qualified accountants applying relative to the available spots. If you're an accountant watching this video right now, you need to seriously consider alternative pathways because waiting for an 189 invitation at 85 points could literally take years. And by the time your turn comes around, the requirements might have increased even further. Engineering occupations fell somewhere in the middle. Civil engineers needed approximately 78 points, mechanical engineers around 77 points, and electrical engineers 79 points. Engineers remain in reasonable demand, but you definitely need more than the baseline minimum to be competitive in today's environment. So what do you do if you're sitting below 80 points right now? Let me give you 3 concrete strategies to increase your score immediately. First strategy, maximize your English language points. If you haven't achieved superior English scores yet, this needs to be your absolute top priority. Superior English means scoring 8 in each component of IELTS or 79 plus in each section of PTE, and it gives you an additional 10 points. That's enormous. The difference between being stuck at 75 points and jumping to 85 points could literally come down to your English test performance. And here's a tip from the migration community. Many people find PTE easier to score highly on compared to IELTS, so if you've been struggling with IELTS, definitely give PTE serious consideration. Second strategy, leverage your work experience. Every year of skilled employment in your nominated occupation adds points to your score. 3 years gives you 5 points, 5 years gives you 10 points, and 8 years gives you 15 points. If you're working in Australia in your nominated occupation and you're approaching one of those milestone thresholds, it might be worth waiting a few months to cross that line before submitting or updating your expression of interest third strategy, and this is where everything connects beautifully. Pursue state sponsorship. A state nomination adds 15 points to your score for either a 190 or 491 visa, and this is where New South Wales, the Australian Capital Territory, and the Northern Territory become incredibly important to your migration strategy. New South Wales just announced their allocation for this program year, and the numbers are genuinely encouraging. NSW has 4,500 nomination spots for the 190 visa and 1,100 spots for the 491 regional visa. That's substantial, and NSW remains one of the most desirable destinations, with Sydney being Australia's largest city and economic center. But here's what you absolutely must understand about NSW nomination. They're not accepting applications from everyone anymore. NSW has become highly selective, prioritizing specific occupation groups and candidates with genuine connections to the state healthcare professionals are sitting at the very top of their priority list. Registered nurses, medical practitioners, psychologists, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech pathologists. If you work in healthcare and you're willing to commit to New South Wales, your chances of receiving nomination are extremely strong right now. Technology workers are also in high demand, but with important qualifications. New South Wales specifically wants cybersecurity specialists, software engineers with expertise in artificial intelligence and machine learning, data scientists, and ICT security specialists. However, they're giving strong preference to candidates who have studied in New South Wales, worked in the state, or have close family members living there. If you have absolutely no connection to New South Wales, your chances drop significantly unless your specific occupation is in critical shortage. The Australian Capital Territory operates quite differently, and understanding their system is crucial if you're considering Canberra. The ACT has allocated 850 nomination places for this program year. That sounds small compared to New South Wales, but don't let that discourage you because the ACT has a unique assessment system called the Canberra Matrix. And if you're willing to relocate to Canberra, your pathway could actually be faster than going through larger states. The ACT heavily prioritizes people who are already living and working in Canberra. If you're currently on a temporary visa and you can secure employment in Canberra and relocate there, you'll earn significant points in their matrix system. They also award points for studying in Canberra, having close family in the ACT, and the length of time you've been residing in the territory. The ACT occupation list includes some interesting options that struggle in other states. Chefs and cooks have much better prospects through ACT nomination than through the 189 stream. Early childhood teachers, aged and disabled carers, construction managers, and various trade occupations all feature prominently on their priority list. Now, let's talk about the Northern Territory, and I want you to really pay attention here, because this could be the game changer for your migration journey. The NT has allocated 1,300 nomination places, and here's the reality. They're actively struggling to fill these spots. The Northern Territory desperately needs skilled workers across virtually every sector imaginable. I understand that Darwin and Alice Springs might not be your first choice when you're dreaming about life in Australia. Most people picture Sydney Harbour or Melbourne's coffee culture, but if your primary goal is obtaining permanent residency as quickly as possible, the Northern Territory could genuinely be your fastest pathway. The NT is actively seeking trades workers including electricians, plumbers, carpenters, automotive electricians, and metal fabricators. But it extends far beyond trades. They need chefs, restaurant managers, cafe managers, retail managers, motor mechanics, and healthcare workers across all categories. Here's what makes the NT fundamentally different from other states. They typically accept lower point scores, they're more willing to nominate candidates without pre-existing connections to the territory, and their processing times are generally faster. Yes, you'll need to commit to living in the Northern Territory for at least 2 years after receiving your visa, but when you compare that to potentially waiting 3 or 4 years for a 189 invitation, It's a trade-off that makes complete sense for many people. Let me address something really important that causes confusion and sometimes serious problems. When you receive state nomination and ultimately obtain your visa, you have a legal obligation to live and work in that state. This isn't merely a suggestion or a guideline, it's a binding requirement. The Department of Home Affairs and state governments actively monitor visa holders to ensure they're fulfilling these commitments. If you receive nomination from Queensland, relocate there, obtain permanent residency, and then immediately move to Sydney, you could face severe consequences, including visa cancellation. This might sound harsh, but it's the reality of how state nomination programs operate. They exist specifically to address labor shortages in particular states, not to provide a backdoor entry to Sydney or Melbourne. So what's the absolute bottom line here? If you're sitting on 75 to 80 points in a competitive occupation, the 189 visa represents a very long wait. State nomination needs to become a central part of your migration strategy. Seriously evaluate New South Wales if you work in healthcare or priority technology occupations and have some connection to the state. Give genuine consideration to the ACT if you're willing to relocate to Canberra and can secure employment there. And absolutely investigate the Northern Territory if you're in trades, hospitality, or healthcare, and you want the fastest possible pathway to permanent residency. Here's my final piece of advice, and this is critical. Don't wait for perfect conditions or hope that the immigration system becomes easier. It won't. Policy changes constantly, and historically, it only becomes more competitive, not less. If you're eligible to apply today, take action today. Get your skills assessment completed, take your English test, prepare your documentation thoroughly, and submit your expression of interest. Time in the queue matters enormously in this points-based system. All right, everyone, that's your complete breakdown of the November 15th invitation round and the state nomination quotas from New South Wales, the ACT, and Northern Territory. If this video provided clarity on your migration pathway, show some love by hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because I analyze every single invitation round the moment results are released. Drop a comment below with your current point score and which pathway you're considering. I genuinely read every comment, and this community is incredibly supportive of each other. Remember, migration is absolutely a marathon rather than a sprint. But with the right strategy and accurate information, you can definitely achieve your Australian dream. I'll see you in the next video, and hopefully soon, I'll see you here in Australia.